Back in summer 2018-2019, I was looking for games to play. While I did find some interesting games, there was one game that got my attention more than others did. Super Animal Royale. However, it wasn't the game everyone knows today, but rather its very money-hungry version. The Super Free Edition.
He's just standing there, menacingly!
I installed the game and was greeted with tons of paywalls so aggressive EA would have taken notes. Want to unlock new super animals? Buy Super Edition. Want to customize your animal? Buy Super Edition. The only things that were actually free is settings, play button, and 4 animals pretending to be variety. So yeah, I played it maybe 2 or 3 hours, got annoyed, uninstalled it and forgot it even existed. However, somewhere in 2020, I suddenly wake up with a thought. Hey, I remember playing that EA-like game with animals, I wonder if it's still around. So I hopped on Steam, and boom, the game is gone. Just kidding, the game is free to play, for real this time. So I decided to give this game another try and joined its Discord community. And well, if you are paying attention to me, you already know what happened next. SARM, the YouTube channel, even collabs, and so on. So some of the people will question, didn't you already make a review for this game before? And to that I'll say, yep, I did. But back then, I was wearing optimism goggles. By that time, indie developers were making masterpieces and proving studios wrong multiple times. So I was considering a game with flaws, but they weren't that terrible. Plus, Pixel seemed to know what they are doing. They're indie developers, what could possibly go wrong?
Oh Mario, there's nothing to be afraid of.
And then Season 8 happened. Probably the hardest disappointment I've seen for SAR yet. Its changes were absolutely absurd. A new map location that is so far from the middle it's a side quest, a new guns that made playing on high-ping servers horrifying, and a kill SMG. Again! Networking became even more broken and ziplines are campers love from the first sight. And despite all that, nobody even said a word against it. YouTubers were sugarcoating this update like crazy, and they still do till this day. And the final nail in the coffin was the announce of Super Animal World itself, the update that was just a salt on SAR's wounds. It didn't change any of the SAR's most painful problems, but only turned even further away from their solution. It was a huge confirmation that Pixel have zero idea what are they doing. The game's on fire and they're just roasting marshmallows at this point, making random decisions that are not helping the game and in some cases are making it worse. I thought that someone would mention this, but barely anyone did. Heck, even the people that did notice that SAR slowly burns to dust didn't know why did it burn to dust. But I do. And today, I will do what others didn't. Hey Foxkeepers, I'm Royale, and this is a review of Super Animal Royale. Grab a seat and let's fox dive right in. Before we dive into SAR and its history, let's dig a bit deeper. There were 2 people, Michael Silverwood and Chris Clogg, or Michael and Clogg for short. 2 wanted to make multiplayer games, and in 2011 founded a company under the name Pixel Studios, and released their first game under a name Stratosphere. Released for iPhones and iPads in 2013, god I miss that time, and was by the end of the year forgotten. It was a simple tower defense game with multiplayer as a feature 7 months after the release. Sadly, I can't review this work of art myself because I do not have any iPhones around, but it sure existed for a while. While it was a fun game, it clearly wasn't enough. Pixel wanted to do more, but they didn't know what game should they even do. A huge blast in the gaming industry happened and PUBG invented Battle Royales. And Pixel said, yeah boy, we're cooking that for sure. The plan was simple, make a simple multiplayer Battle Royale, add animals, and paywall issues.
With what?
Instead of cooking the game for iPhones, Pixel went on a more popular market, Steam. And so, Super Animal Royale was born. 2D Battle Royale with cute animals and isometric view. Wait, what? Isometric shooter! I haven't heard these 2 words combined together in a long time. This genre is like a prehistoric dinosaur that's already dead, and then Pixel came in and decided to bring it out of the coffin. The game was doing fine, but then Pixel noticed that big YouTubers were starting to notice this game and give it its free publicity. So Pixel decided to go gambling and make the game free to play. And hit the jackpot they did. Thousands of players, a ton of good reviews on Steam, consoles release, a big community built in days, and tons of YouTubers starting to do content for SAR. It seemed perfect. Until SAR died months later, that is lol. First time? So, let's play the game and find out what went terribly wrong for Pixel. Starting up the game and we see a loading screen worse than in Sims. Seriously, I get that it's an early access game, but still, this didn't change a single bit when Pixel announced that their game was getting out of the early access status. Here's an example of a good loading screen. Here you have a big picture in the middle that has a lot to look at, so while you take a close look at all the details, the loading is already done. Here you just stare at the moving GIF image until the game is loaded. It's not that big of an issue since the game loads itself pretty fast, but on old PCs it may take a lot of time and that's a fact. But wait, there's more! After the game shows us a splash screen, which would have been better to see in a loading process, we see another loading screen and... Okay, remember when I said that this loading screen was terrible? Never mind, I take my words back. This is worse. There's not even a single moving picture, just black screen and white text. At least the second loading is fast. Here we finally get into the menu and isn't just me or literally everyone got a deja vu feeling the first time they loaded the main menu.
This looks like kind of a weird rip-off of Fortnite, does it not?
It does. It literally does.
Like
You're just a cheap knockoff. Oh no. I'm the upgrade.
This menu is a direct copy-paste of Fortnite's menu, from style to UI positions. It's actually a new redesign. Old version seems to be original, but I don't know, something tells me that even this menu was also stolen from the other game. I just can't put my paw on which one it is. Anyway, while menu is stolen, it still does its job pretty well. Here you have a background scenery, an option for customization, surprisingly for free, wall of random quests, everyday tasks, a shop, and a lab for unlocking new super animals. Oh, and also a battle pass. We will get to later. It's a small variety, but it's mostly enough. Seems innocent enough, aside from stolen main menu, so let's dig deeper, because we have some lore to uncover here. Yeah, Star lore was discussed by many people before me, except all that there ever was is only the same info that was already told 4 to 5 years ago, and only Shaq tried to add more to that with Star Revisited. So, will it recycle the same info for this review to save some work hours? Nope, Star's lore is pretty disconnected when it comes to the overall lore, so instead of beating up an already dead horse, I'll be filling in the gaps with the most likely theories for it. Just like Tom did in his Poppy Playtime lore video, I'll leave the lore meter right over there. If it's green, that means that the info told here is official and is confirmed by Pixel to be canon. If it's orange, that means that the info isn't confirmed by Pixel officially, but there are a lot of official hints that hint on the theory being true. If it's red, that means that it's not confirmed by Pixel and is a theory to fill in the gap. Simple, right? Well then, let's begin. Let's start with the fact that there's a company named Pixel Industries. It's as big as Google, Nvidia or Microsoft, and for some reason the CEO of the company wants to make a biological weapon against humanity that would be easy to control and use for domination. So the company settles on making an unnamed subsidiary company with scientists to figure it all out themselves. They buy a private island and start their experiments, and their first idea is super animals. After some failed experiments, they finally make a success. The first ever skullcat. Now that they have figured out the base for the super animals, they start making more and they succeed in that. But the info about this company and its biological weapon gets leaked, and now everyone knows that Pixel Industries are working under a weapon against humanity. So the scientists need to figure out the cover-up for all this. They gather a meeting with ideas until they find one so brilliant yet absurd that it might just work.
What if we just make a park with these animals and act like it's a tourist park, and at night when the tourists are not on an island, we'll train super animals to be the weapon we want?
You're hired. So now with a new goal, unknown company renames itself as Super Animal World and makes a tourist park with super animals as a cover-up. And let's just say that this idea worked flawlessly. They were not only off the FBI's radar completely, they were also getting their own funding from tourists so they could finally stop relying on the Pixel Industries budget to literally survive. And as for the park employees, the super animals were these very employees. It seemed like a flawless plan. Well, almost. The scientists overlooked one tiny detail that ruined it all. Super animals are almost humans when it comes to the feelings, consciousness, and so on. And with humans coming as tourists, they weren't just coming there and having fun, no. They were sharing a bit of their more open world. Because let me remind you, super animals are trapped on an island while humans have no restrictions on the freedom part. And once Cheesego Dara found out about how trapped and abused super animals are on the island, he has made a group named Super Animal Super Resistance, or CSR for short. And just like Puppy Playtime, CSR made their own Hour of Joy in the Super Animal Super stage. Don't ask me what's with Pixel naming everything super, I have genuinely no idea. But, unlike in Puppy Playtime, CSR didn't just make an Undertale genocide route, they also decided to just destroy most of the island. Burn it to the ground, so to speak. It seems like another point of no return for Super Animal World Corp, right? And to be honest, it is. I mean, FBI was already supposed to shut down the South Corp completely, and the allegations against Pixel Industries would have killed them already. But for some reason, FBI just doesn't care. Maybe Pixel Industries just bought out their silence. Maybe it was covered up well by Pixel Industries. I don't know. Either way, Corp is in a terrible state. Super animals are out of control, there's no more funding since the park is, well, burnt to the ground, so what now? I suppose the same person that suggested making a theme park as a distraction also looked at super animals using guns well and said this.
Hey, can't we just record all of this, drop it on YouTube and pray that someone will watch it?
So that's what they did. They made a group responsible for broadcasting all of this on YouTube, and they made a show, Super Animal Royale Tonight. As you could have guessed, Corp expanded on the idea of super animals fighting, turning it into a profit for them, while super animals never got the freedom they fought for in the first place. And that's basically it. Sure, there are some parts where there's a bit more lore, but it mostly doesn't matter as much. And you know what? This was written like 3 to 4 years ago. Pixel barely expanded on this in years. The last big update for lore was the Healthy update, where we got a lot of info on the health juice. Maybe a bit too much.
What did you do to my drink? You what?
But Sar has NPCs that you can talk to and get more info. Let's take a look at what they offer here, shall we? The first one you'll ever see in SAR is of course Dr. Dogna. At first, Dogna will meet you at the lobby in SAO Welcome Center, and before actually talking to you, we'll ask you to find its secret lab, while also giving some tips on where to actually find it. After finding the secret lab, Dogna will just say, "Good job!" and wait till you meet it again in the lobby. Which immediately loses any logic since, since the secret lab, the secrets should have been told in a place that is secret and not around other super animals. Anyway, after finding it in the lobby, it'll talk about the first ever Skullcat and will also give you a hint on where to find it. And that's it. Well, that was pretty empty. Maybe the first Skullcat will have more to offer? After finding it in a giant Skullcat building, it'll ask you not to hurt it, will give you a staff, and just get back into its coffin. Oh wait, that's sarcophagus. Works the same anyway. Then if you come to it again, you can thank it for the staff and it'll ask you for the feedback on scaring you. Then we'll just say to not, since it doesn't like disappointment. That's relatable. And that's it. Unless, after you actually leave and be around the building, you can hear him actually talking about the whole situation on the island. This is much better. At least Skullcat actually cares about what's going on, unlike Dogna, which just cared about its job for the entire dialogue. But sadly, that super animal consciousness that rebels were so proud of when writing these lines on the wall is actually a luxury throughout the dialogue with the NPCs. And that's about it for the talkable NPCs. That's not only too little, but also just, I don't know, soulless? The entire reason why CSR has made the incident is because they wanted to be treated like humans, and yet through 2 NPCs we covered, they are not even close to being as humans. They don't care about what's going on around them and mostly care about their job and only their job. Except for Scully, at least he's trying his best. And if you thought that it would be better in the third show, then nope. The same thing happens with literally almost every single NPC in the show, but that's a story for another day. Let's do it like this. 50 likes and there's this review, and I'm making up a review of 2 seasons of Sard. Do we have a deal? Nice! Now, coming back to the lore, it is interesting but feels finished. Most of the games have some sort of a mystery that keeps players digging through the lore. For Sonic, it's where did the Chaos Emeralds come from? For FNAF, it's when is this hell going to end? And so on. But Sard doesn't. The lore is already mostly solved, the expansion on other details like Hell's Juice and other buildings on the island feels more like an optional addition rather than something really important. Mostly because of the fact that it just doesn't play any kind of role in the main lore and just works for the world building. Same with the NPCs. They're so focused on their jobs that they feel optional. Erase them and literally nothing will change. They have no impact on the lore after their importance before, and that's a big hit on the lore entirely. Well, lore had a lot of potential but turned out to be not that great, but maybe gameplay has more to offer? I think it's best to start with lobby here since it's one of the main roots of the Sard's bad gameplay. The game's replayability is very important for its popularity in life, but Sard's lobby is everything but replayable. First things first, you are dropped in a small location called South Welcome Center. It's mostly empty, the only interactable things here are the shooting gallery and the art museum. Museum is very simple, it's just holding the artworks from the players, except after you've viewed all of them, you have no other reason to come there ever again until the artworks get updated. And the shooting gallery isn't really much better in this regard either. It doesn't have challenges, which makes it pointless, and the only interesting thing about it is just shooting other players, which gets boring really quickly. And that's it. Let me repeat, that's it. No parkour, no challenges, nothing. There's literally nothing to do in a lobby but to wait for the countdown to finally start the game, so most of the lobby gameplay is just you sitting in one spot and scrolling YouTube shorts till the match starts. Sure, communication with other players can make this experience better, but tell me, is it really the improvement made by the lobby or the players that want to make this experience better? But at least it's not too long to wait, right? Old lobbies didn't have any activities at all, they weren't invented till PUBG made a solar blast in the gaming industry. They were there just for the sake of grouping players, and they worked. They were short and you weren't waiting for hours just for the game to start. Except Sard's lobby waiting takes 4 to 5 minutes. I know, it may sound not too bad, but here's the kicker. The gameplay itself takes 5 to 6 minutes for a match, unless it's other modes. I find that a lot of people don't quite get what this time is about and why does it matter, and trust me, it matters a lot more than you think. Imagine it like this. There is a bucket filled with water, but it has a hole on the bottom that slowly but effectively drains water from the bucket. The water in this case is the player's attention. Without anything interesting happening, the player's attention quickly drains completely, so in order to prevent it, developers add interesting gameplay to refill that player's attention like parkour or challenges. However, there is a catch to that. Player must feel the actions he's doing in the game being useful. The simple example is looting the items in PUBG and doing an item gathering side quest in any MMO. In PUBG, loading items is important and player knows that, so it is interesting for the player to do. In any MMO, however, the player just wants to get the reward of the side quest and the items he gathers are not important to him at all, so it just becomes boring for the player to actually collect them. Now, coming back to the Sard's lobby, we can easily see the main problem. There are no activities that are refilling players' attention and it drains. And even if there were, like I mentioned before, they work the same way as a side quest in MMO. It has no importance for the players, so it becomes boring and instead of refilling, does the opposite. Some games, however, are able to take the hit to then compensate it with an action-filled gameplay. We will talk about why that doesn't work for Sard soon, just keep that in mind for now. Sard's lobby also has a waiting time the same as the gameplay, which wastes players' time and player can easily feel it. especially in long playthroughs of the game. This is why Stars Lobby doesn't work at all from the gameplay perspective. It just wastes players' time with boring gameplay and prevents people from coming back to the game wanting more. But okay, let's take a look at the main gameplay here now, because sadly it only gets worse from here. Let's start with the controls. They're as basic as Pixel's ideas for improving the game.
That can instantly patch, bond, seal, and repair.
You can move with WSD or left stick, but it's so slow that most of the time you will be rolling. Literally, you can do a super roll with space or upper left bumper on consoles. It has no stamina restrictions, so most of the time playing this game, you will be spamming this button until it's dead. You can also crouch with Ctrl or left stick press, but it's as useless as it can get, so you can easily forget it exists. You can also heal yourself in case you get damaged, and there's two ways to do that. First way is healing your HP with health juice. On the map, there will be a lot of bottles with health juice, and if you collect more than 0, you'll be able to drink it to heal 10 HP per sip. There's a couple of problems with that. First one is of course the pacing. High speed, jumping, dodging, only to then just sit and drink. It's slow, boring, and most of all doesn't work with the gameplay as the game trolls at you. But at least the damage in this game is low, so you don't need to heal that much, right? Nope. Quite the opposite in fact. The damage in this game is so insane that sometimes you can be literally left with 10 HP or less in a matter of just 4 to 5 seconds. And that's if you're lucky to survive, that is. And let me remind you, healing is 10 HP per second, and the super animal has a max HP of 100. So in order to fully recover that, you need to wait 10 seconds for recovery. 10 seconds of just standing still and doing nothing. Plus, add to that the fact that you also need to not be interrupted by an enemy to heal, which is a rarity, especially at the end game. That's a fuck ton of waiting time, which doesn't work well at all with the damage this game's weapons can give. But there's a second item that's supposed to help you with that. And yes, I'm in armor and it's healing. The game has two types of armor.
By all accounts, it doesn't make sense.
And unlike some popular games, here armor works completely different. Instead of reducing the damage with the better armor, in SAR, level 1 armor protects you from one bullet. Any one bullet. Level 2 armor protects you from 2 bullets. So come on, can you guess how well does this third level armor protect you? Yep, you guessed it, it doesn't. It's not only funny, but also incredibly restrictive. You'll see what I mean when we get further into the gameplay analysis. However, unlike other Battle Royale games, you can actually heal your armor here. On the map, you will be finding, is that a duct tape? Yep, and if you have a broken armor, you can restore its 1 health tick per tape. Let's also calculate how much time does it take to restore a third level armor. "9 seconds. Add to that low HP, and in order to fully max out our HP and armor, you will need 19 whole seconds. And let me remind you, weapons in this game can destroy all that HP in a matter of seconds. It is extremely unfair and mostly makes all battles literally rely on how much damage you can give in the shortest time frame possible. And you know what? I don't like it. I know, sounds controversial, but hear me out. The whole idea of battling an opponent is learning the mechanics the game gives you, finding the mistake enemy does, and striking there. One of the games I know that does it the best is Voxium. The mechanical potential this game has is insane, and mostly the game doesn't have that big of a damage, and even if such damage happens, you can heal it easily in a matter of seconds with berries. The gameplay core is simple. It's a fast-paced shooter that is slow, like a tower defense game. You're too slow to run away from the enemies, so your only option is to defend your territory, and the game gives you all the tools to do so. One of such tools are blocks. One of the most OP things this game can give. There's 4 modes for your mayhem with enemies. A simple block, a 3x3 wall, a ladder, and a 3x3 floor. On surface it seems simple, but once in action, you can combine all of them, and unlike in Fortnite, where building is basically just another name for blocking attacks and countering, in Voxium it's a tool for outplay of the enemies, and you can do stuff so crazy with it that fights become unpredictable and fun. The damage is also low, which may sound boring, but add 3 to 4 enemies into the mix and you get a crazy damage from all the sides that you'll be able to control with all the mechanics this game has. All this is needed for one single goal: outsmarting your opponent and having your gameplay in full control. The game wants you to play around with your enemies like with toys, and you can feel free to do so. It becomes even more fun when there's another strategy madman in a match. It just becomes a fight of who's gonna come up with the most crazy outplay ever. That is what makes the gameplay feel rewarding and interesting, because at the end of the day, you're not just giving high numbers of damage, you're outsmarting an opponent, and that goes a long way. Sar's gameplay, on the other hand, consists of just giving the most damage as fast as you can, and it really feels flat. You wanna know why does it feel this way? Because the enemy doesn't have a chance to fight back. It removes that human part about the fights that makes them different, unique, unpredictable, and actually fun, to the point where it becomes boring and pointless. Oh, and I almost forgot that there's a big elephant in the room that isn't great. The perspective. Let's start from the obvious. You do remember that I mentioned Star having isometric perspective, so now's the time to expand on that. Back when computers could only show ones and zeros on the screen and people called it dark magic, 3D was invented, and while it seemed like a cool idea, most computers just weren't as powerful as a NASA supercomputer to actually run them, not even just play games. But people wanted 3D anyway, so they came up with a workaround. There's top-down view and unlocked view, my naming of 3D. An isometric view is like a son of both. It visually seems like a 3D, but technically is just 2D with a new coat of paint. So how does that relate to SAR? Well, SAR's perspective isn't 2D or 3D, it's both. So to sell the illusion, Pixel just made ghost walls. If that sounds confusing, then here's the visual explanation. The height of the wall you see is longer than its hitbox is, so bullets can just come through the upper part of all the objects in the game, and if that doesn't sound too bad, then here's where it really starts to mess with you. The main lesson of all the shooters is shoot the head, not the body. So instinctively, you try to apply that to SAR and shoot aiming for the head, and you miss. Because the actual hitbox isn't the legs, and that's just the top of the iceberg. It just gets even worse with walls. You think that you are covered by them, only to then just die from a bullet that went through the upper part of the wall, which doesn't have a hitbox. You constantly don't know whether a wall is gonna shield you or not, and the only way to actually know this is to just manually check every single wall on the map and memorize the hitboxes. If it sounds on paper terrible, then in practice it's even worse, because you will be focused on trying not to die more than on remembering whether this part of the wall is supposed to keep you safe or not. Sure, this perspective is what makes this game unique, but its downsides are a big reminder why this gameplay went extinct in the first place. But, in my opinion, there's one more part of the gameplay that really makes PvP battles pointless and boring, and it's weapons and their weapon balance. Grab some snacks, because this is gonna be a pretty long talk here. Let's start with the fact that there are like 8 types of weapons in a game, but we're not gonna touch every single one here just for the sake of conserving time, alright? Weapons that will be ignored unless related to other more important weapons are Magnum, Deagle, Silence Pistol, Jag, Thomas Gun, Hunting Rifle, M16 and Sparrow Launcher. They all are mostly just a copy of a more popular weapon, and no, I do not care if Jag is considered to be different because it has a higher range and bullet spread. It works the exact same way as a normal shotgun works in a game, and there's nothing you can say to change my mind. We will go from the most normal weapons, weapon balance of which is okay, to the most broken and utterly absurd weapons. Pistol. This weapon is considered to be garbage in most shooters, but here it can pack a pretty good heat. It has 38 to 40 damage, 10 bullets in a mag and shoots them out pretty quickly. Surprisingly has a good range and bullet spread. It is not that bad for now, but it will get more intense with the other guns, especially the one specific gun. It is useful, but you will rarely pick it instead of a more powerful gun. Next, the dart gun. This weapon is a healer's love from the first sight. It has 6 bullets in the mag, and 1 bullet deletes about a third of the player's HP, completely ignoring the armor. 3 shots from the kitchen gun, dart gun, and the player is dead. It also has a good range and no bullet spread. Thank God. It's not that broken, and while its ability to ignore armor will make you regret your life choices if used against you, it is still pretty fair and most of the time can be outplayed by simple logic, but sadly that's the luxury other guns in this list may not have. Bow. Yes, you heard me right, a shooter game has a Foxium bow. What's next, the slingshot? Anyways, this weapon is amazing. It has about 55 to 57 damage and it has a feature. If you hit a player and he still has at least 1 tick of armor left, the damage you give will be 40% reduced, but it'll still damage the HP no matter the armor. It has no mag and instead has a hold feature, just like Pixel did when they want to release its SAO expansion. Instead of shooting once or automatically, Bow needs you to hold down the button for charging up. The longer you hold, the longer the distance of an arrow is. It also has an ability to hold charge when rolling and even charge up when rolling. And since time of a roll is almost equal to the time to charge up an arrow, SAR players just figured out that they can just shoot, make a roll, and charge an arrow in between of that roll. This weapon is probably the only weapon that actually wants you to play around with the game's movement and rewards you for learning that. It's well balanced and in the right pause can destroy opponents. Well, that's all for the balanced weapons. Now's the time to dive right into the hell that is SAR's other half of the weapons. Okay, remember when I said that bullet spread wasn't a big deal before? This weapon wants you to suffer, mentally and physically. Bullet spread on this weapon is so crazy, so absurd, to the point where it genuinely pisses me off. Okay, for the love of God, hit your target, please, you're at point blank! Let's just say there's two ways to make a bullet spread. One is good and second one is garbage. The first way is the most standard one you see in almost every single shooter game. After about 3 to 4 bullets fired, the game adds an additional distance for the bullet from the crosshair, intentionally made to make you miss. The reason why it's garbage? Because you as a player have zero control over it. It's just bullets flying in a random direction from your crosshair and nothing else. Except in SAR, it's even worse, because being in point blank doesn't help. In 3D games, the closer enemy is to you, the bigger size of him you see, making his hitbox bigger for you to hit. So the small difference in the bullet spread works only on distance, but in SAR, there is no such thing. So even if you will be in point blank, you will still miss your shots just because it's random. Taking control away from the player is a tool, punishment that is given for not using the weapon the way it was intended to be used, and yet this is taking control away all the time, and this becomes annoying really fast. There's a second way that isn't as used in games, but in my opinion is a better way to implement bullet spread. It's dragging your weapon crosshair up. The best game to demonstrate this is PUBG. You take a weapon, scope at your target, and see your crosshair go up as soon as you fire your shots. So in order to keep a steady aim, you need to drag your aim down and actually control your gun level. It's a mechanic that allows you to have control over your gun and not pray to the god every time you go in point blank that you will hit, and that's a big difference in control. Coming back to Arcane SAR, it has good stats, but the main problem of this gun is the fact that it feels more like a FAMAS and not a K. Since a K has a terrible bullet spread, you can't fire a steady stream of bullets accurately, and you're forced to just shoot 2 to 3 bullets and stop, just like with FAMAS, which is already a completely different playstyle. SMG. Pixel hates this weapon. I have no idea why they hate it so much, but it's a fact. Here's the deal. The game's first version only had SMG out of automatic weapons, not including AK and M16, and it was well balanced, as far as I can remember. But Pixel didn't like it, so they decided to destroy this weapon. How so? Well, in one of the updates that came, was released a new gun, double pistols. This weapon was SMG, with less bullets, same bullet travel, faster shooting speed, and higher damage than SMG. However, while it did seem like a perfect SMG killer, Pixel overshot it a little by making this gun not an automatic one. Not everyone wanted to literally kill their mouse faster for the sake of a little bit faster performance than SMG, so Pixel made another SMG killer, Super 8 Laser. Sit down for this one, it has 50 bullets in a mag, same shooting speed as SMG, barely any bullet spread at first, about 10 to 15 bullets, which will be enough to just kill people at this point, and little to no damage drop off at all. It has a wind-up animation of 1 second, but to be honest, it is not even close to compensate all the buffs this weapon has. All this made SMG absolutely useless to most people, if not everyone entirely. Some will mention that they prefer taking SMG over AK in some battles, but the main reason why is just because SMG does the AK's job better. By the way, Bow also had an attempted murder by Magnum because of the fact that it was just a bow but better and more mobile, but players enjoyed Bow's logic more, even though that mag is also widely used in SAR over Bow. Coming back to SMG, it has about 39 damage, 25 bullets in a mag, fast shooting speed, and a high distance of the bullets. It also has a lower bullet spread, meaning that it literally shoots more accurately than AK. Some may say that 39 damage is completely enough for such gun, but that's in point blank. As a 700-hour player in SAR on SMG, I'll tell you that you will almost never get to kill someone in point blank with SMG unless you just jump scare them and they just don't react as much. And that isn't even the whole picture. The main opponent of SMG is shotgun, and compared to shooting speed of a shotgun, SMG is so slow, so weak and garbage to the point where it's not even funny, but just sad to see this fun weapon get so destroyed with little to no effort at all from all the other guns. Well, if you thought that balancing was terrible, hold on tight, because it's time to talk about broken weapons this game has. SAR has 3 weapons that hold every player in absolute fear and horror, starting from gameplay, ending with metal understanding of Pixel's balancing logic for these weapons. The least broken of them is shotgun. It's pretty simple on stats. Maximum damage, 5 bullets in a mag, no damage drop off, pretty fast shooting speed, and a great bullet travel. It might not seem like much until you actually play against it. The first reason for it being broken is the fact that the damage is not reduced at all. Yes, you heard that correctly. The damage is calculated by the amount of bullets you can eat with your body and not how far you are from the gun. Meaning that you can be almost out of its bullet range and yet still lose all of your armor or HP. The only way to dodge the bullets is to move out of the way of the bullets, which is not even possible because of the ghost bullets. And even if you will dodge the first or even 2 bullets, don't you worry, Pixel got you completely cooked because this gun has 5 bullets instead of usual 2 that shotguns get for balancing reasons. Coincidence? I think not. It already feels unfair compared to the other weapons, especially SMG, but you do remember that I mentioned it being the least broken on the list, right? Its range is still a huge downgrade, and while it does work in close quarters, where, I don't know, mostly all of your fights are, it is at least manageable and at least is trying to take a right path, unlike the other weapon on the list. Behold, the true weapon of destruction, something that has no mercy at all. The sniper rifle. Where the fuck should I even begin here? This weapon has 97 to 99 damage, has 5 bullets in a mag, insane bullet travel, and absurd bullet spread. I find it funny how Pixel decided to just leave this gun at 97 damage so that it wouldn't one-shot people. Even if a person will survive with sniper and not get one-shotted, do you really believe that these 1 to 3 HP the player will have from the sniper damage will actually allow him to win the fight? It's not even enough to run away, it's better to just have 100 plus damage at this point. If shotgun has it, why sniper rifle can't? Am I right, Pixel? Speaking of shotgun, sniper rifle is a shotgun. Or at least technically it works as a shotgun. It can be easily used in close range, and with hot swapping between sniper and shotgun, I'd start to pray you don't run into such player in a match because you're already dead. And for people who would try to defend this balance, mentioning the bullet spread, firstly, there's a literal way to bypass it completely. And secondly, this gun has no counters at all. Most of the counter strategies are just praying a player will miss, and that'll mostly not happen, trust me. There is no way to counter this thing, and it's funny that people who made this weapon are trying to defend it despite all the balance going against
Serious?
it. The sniper takes skill to properly master, and the off-screen shots take a lot of skill to master. It can easily be countered by aggressive dodging. Easily be countered by aggressive dodging. Easily be countered by aggressive dodging. Easily countered by aggressive dodging, damn it! Now, hearing all that, you'd think that I'm against one-shotting in this game, and while it is true to some extent, I'm not. One-shotting from sniper exists in other shooters as well, and there's a reason why it works there and in SAR doesn't. One-shotting makes you literally lose in a second, and most of the shooters that do have one-shotting are countering it with respawning and fast matches, but SAR doesn't. It's a battle royale, not a team deathmatch with respawns, which means that every single time you die, you wait an abnormal amount of time to get back into the game, with the chance of your gameplay time being lower than your waiting time in the lobby. It's a punishment for dying, except you didn't even do anything wrong. This is not fun, and if this one-shotting comes at the cost of ruining the pace of the game and the entire will to play the game entirely after such deaths, I will not be supporting it. And yet, there are still people who enjoy it. There are players who want to make one-shotting, and removing it completely would kill a huge part of SAR's fanbase. So, it's double-edged sword. If one-shotting stays, the players will continue to quit the game because of how unfair it is. And if one-shotting gets removed, you're gonna lose a huge SAR community portion. You'd think it's a problem with no solution, but you had the answer under your nose the entire time, Pixile. When a game released a new game mode, mystery mode, it had a sub-mode. That was the solution. Snipers and shotguns only. By making these guns broken only in their own game mode, one-shotting still exists and is more convenient since you don't need to wait hours for a mole crate to drop a sniper rifle. And instead, you can have it from any place in the game. And even if you saw that it still loses the part of combining different weapons with broken weapons, think again. Since this mode would be appearing every week, or how Pixel wanted it to be, it could feature one different gun for combinations every time the mode appears available again. So even that problem is solved. All it takes to solve the unsolvable problem is just a little bit of creativity and ability to look outside the box. And yet all we have is a broken weapon balance ruining fun for many players who just want a fun shooter game and try not to get hit by ghost bots, challenge impossible. And if you're still not convinced that Pixel's weapon balancing is just actions without thinking about their consequences, then there's one ultimate argument left that'll change that. The weapon that is so broken to the point of mentioning it at least once will bring you bad luck for at least 5 matches in a row. Meet your worst nightmare, BCG. Let's start from its origin. This gun wasn't even supposed to exist before. Thomas was making a grenade launcher, but it seems that stealing government blueprints for making guns isn't enough to make them work, so instead he decides to, 9/11, yeah, I'd like to report animal abuse. Seriously, this doesn't even remotely look and sound like a good idea. You're using a literal chicken to fire eggs, it's not even a gun. From a simple logic, how the fuck do eggs even damage super animals at all? Do they have a deadly allergy on eggs? Or are the eggs flying so fast to the point where they deal high-speed physical damage? Alright, it has 59 to 72 damage per bullet, 5 bullets in the mag, has an insane bullet range, and inherits mechanics from a bow, meaning that it can do a roll charge and charge distance from the bullet travel depending on how long you charge it, the same way a bow does. It already sounds insane, but this gun has a powerful nerf. 65% armor penetration, meaning that just like bow, if the bullet hits an enemy that still has at least 1 tick of armor, it will give only 65% of the main damage. That's low. Like very low, for a gun that is supposed to work like a grenade launcher. For that very reason, this gun is the only gun that also has its own mechanics to balance it out. It can shoot bullets through some of the walls just like a grenade. These bullets can bounce off walls and when making impact with the ground, leave a slowing area. Oh, did I also mention that by impact the bullet literally damages in an area it hits? Well, now you know, and players didn't like it. And I see why, but I won't tell it for now. Pixel decided to fix this weapon, and in doing so, they made a change so absurd, so insane, that it actually makes me question their sanity if they actually saying that it's fine. Oh wait, they do. Anyway, what that change could be. Maybe changing bullet speed, or maybe a bigger mag with more bullets. Nope, they increased the armor penetration. So now, weapon deals full damage on HP despite the armor. But at least to balance it, they removed the unique features that were made to compensate the low damage, right? Nope, they did not. And you know the worst part about all of this? When they did make a nerf to this weapon, they nerfed the damage from 50 plus to just 50. So it would be harder to 2-tap people with 3rd level armor, meaning that they do not see any issue with how unbalanced and broken this weapon already is. And I find it incredibly funny because despite all that, players still hate it. And there's 2 reasons why so. The first one may be a little bit of a stretch, but hear me out. BCG is slow and it's uncomfortable. When you're playing on other, more faster weapons, you get used to how fast, convenient it is to actually use them. So when coming back to a more slower weapon, your brain literally wants to come back to a more faster weapon because a slow weapon feels like a downgrade. So when players play on BCG and feel how slow it is to play it, they want to go with more faster weapons instead, but that's just my analysis at this point. The second reason is the main one, and it's the BCG's ability that is supposed to help. You guessed it, it's bullets bouncing off the walls. Instead of making bullets go like a ball in a pinball machine, they barely make 2 bounces from the walls, mostly not. So this feature's existence is pointless, except it can also kill you. Yes, by random, a bullet can literally fly back in your face and deal full damage on you. And it wouldn't be a huge problem if not Pixel's entire map level design wouldn't be an asset spam. It just becomes hard to not just shoot in these locations but just move there at all. Add to that the fact that BCG can just kill you with your own bullets, and here you go, you have a combo that nobody would want to play with, because its use cases are mostly little to none. And the fact that you can easily find it even at the start of the match doesn't help it at all. In SAR, there's 2 ways to get the weapons. First one is easy, they are literally just left on the ground for you to easily find and use. And the second one is a rebel crate, or to put it simply, gambling. Yes, you heard that right, Pixel found a way to literally add gambling that affects the main gameplay. Be quiet about it or else EA will start taking notes from such great and innovative ideas. To be honest, it isn't that bad as it sounds at first. You can find the chests on the ground and open them for free to get weapons. Any weapon you want, you can get there. Unless it's a minigun. And actually, it's not that bad of an idea. The fact that you don't need to pray for your life just to get a Thomas gun from the mall crate is a great idea for new players to be able to try out all the guns. But the main problem is the fact that you can get epic guns from the crate. And epic guns are almost no different from their legendary counterpart. Damage difference is a joke, by the way. And let me remind you, you can get any gun from this crate. Even broken weapons, and of course, BCG. And it becomes literal gambling because you may get a crate full of bananas while your enemy gets a crate with 2 epic guns in a row. What the fuck is that? And yet, you can see BCG be easily left by many players on the place of a lucky drop. While it does help with making players not want to abuse it hard, it does not change the fact that it is still a broken weapon that is absurd from start to end of its life cycle, even if unused for the most part. Phew, that took a while. Anyway, you might have wondered, why did I talk about weapon balance this in depth? Well, have you noticed how disconnected the weapon balance feels here? The easiest example here is BCG, where it was designed with 25 to 30 damage in mind, but with full damage its balance goes to shit completely. The same thing happens with all the other weapons in the game. They are not made in mind of combining them and experimenting with them, and are working best only as a standalone weapon. Why is that a problem? Let's take a look at online servers of SAR and we'll see that mostly everyone picks only one combo: shotgun and sniper. And it's easy to understand why. Their balance together is way stronger than any other combo in the game, which ultimately just kills all the purpose of other weapons in the game. Coming back to Voxium, sure, there were some OP weapons, but they weren't made to be standalone weapons of destruction that work at every single case and situation. For example, shotgun is perfect for close range fights, but is terrible on distance. And if the enemy mostly consists of snipers, you won't be able to kill that many people with shotgun. In SAR, these 2 are the only weapons you will ever need. They can do anything other weapons can and even more. If shotgun and sniper are an all-time meta, then every fight will be against these weapons, and while on paper it doesn't sound that bad, on gameplay side, fights become repetitive to the point of wanting to uninstall the game completely. You know what else will make you want to uninstall the game? Ghost bullets. For those who don't know what I'm talking about, here's an explanation. The online game happens on a server, and every player that is connected to the server is giving it a tiny piece of data that contains info about your movement, items you have, damage you get, and so on. The server gets this data and then sends you a result that you see on your screen. And there's a problem with that. It's laggy, because the time to send and receive data from your PC to server and back has a delay. Even if it's small, it will be enough to make you go crazy playing the game with this absurd input lag. So, developers made a workaround. The game will mostly run offline on your PC. Your PC sends data of your movement, server checks it with its calculations and calculations of other players, and then gives you output. The delay is gone, but now the different problem is there. Since you're playing an offline version on your PC, it doesn't have a delay, but your speed of transferring data from PC to server and back does. Or to put it simply, your PC reacts to stuff way faster than server does, which means that if you will dodge a bullet, but your server version doesn't, you still get a full damage of a bullet no matter the dodge. As Clock, tech side of SAR says, This is a bug that exists in all the shooter games including 3D. It's just that in SAR, because of perspective, you can see it more easily. And well, I'm not gonna lie, it is true to some extent. You can still see the ghost bullets in 3D shooters, but it's far less common to see them because of the perspective. But if we take a closer look at the problem longer than 5 seconds, we will see what others cannot. The problem of ghost bullets is not in the fact that they happen, but in the fact of what they do. Foxam also has ghost bullets, and you can easily see them, but nobody cares about them that much. Why? Well, Trevor understood that ghost bullets cause too much damage on the player, so to fix it, he lowered the damage of guns so that it would have been manageable. And even if we count a sniper rifle into the mix here, and we get a ton of damage in a second, the recovery of the HP is quick, about 6 seconds to recover 50 HP out of 125 armor, which leaves us with 75 HP, and unlike in SAR, it's enough to survive most of the fights, including 2v1, 3v1 and more. Ghost bullets stopped leaving a huge damage on the player and they easily became forgettable, especially with a gameplay this fast and action-filled. Now it's SAR's turn. SAR has a 19-second full recovery of HP and armor and insanely high damage that is basically the perfect environment for ghost bullets. The game itself, because of high damage, makes you count every bullet you eat and shouldn't have. Because of that, ghost bullets are a major issue, especially when you die from them, because at this point, this is just gambling. Will ghost bullets hit you or not, and there is no mechanic in the games that would allow you to dodge that damage. Fine, there is one mechanic, alright? Remember how I mentioned that you have a super roll? Well, now's the time to expand on that. There's two types of the super roll. First one is a forward roll. It's fast but lands your hitbox lower. Second one is a backwards roll, and it's slower but lands your hitbox higher. Why does that matter? Well, if you time your backwards roll just right, it can just jump over a bullet. Any kind of bullet. Well, that sounds pretty sick and powerful, so why didn't you count it in the overall balance of the game? And that's because I freaking hate this mechanic. Just like the bullets, the roll on your offline version is off sync with the server version. So if you will time your jump on the offline version depending on its timing, the timing will be messed up on the server version and you will get damaged. And unlike in Dark Souls games where the timing is always consistent, in SAR, you have a PC to server delay. There's no way to know if you've pulled the trick off or not because of the inconsistent delay, and including the fact that sometimes your life can literally depend on the success of this trick, it becomes unreliable and random. Okay, Aurora from the future here, and as you could have guessed, I forgot to mention two important things: vehicles and grenades. Let's start with the vehicles here. SAR has only two here, and that's hamster balls and emu. Hamster balls used to be incredibly OP because they could one-shot you at any HP, but they were nerfed and they're still OP, it just takes a little bit more effort now to make them work the same way. The controls for them feel like something out of a monkey ball game, which I find pretty interesting. They do have bad HP though, it works the same way as a 3rd level armor, taking 3 hits till destroyed. They also can bounce off walls, which can get annoying when you don't know how to play on them, but after you actually learn how to use them, they're not that bad. Now for the emu. There are 4 types of these: normal, tank, speedy, and battle emu. There are a lot of differences between these, but for the most of them, the name literally describes it. Tank has a high HP but low movement speed, Speedy has the fastest speed but has less HP than normal, and Battle Emu is just the middle ground between Tank and Speedy. Okay, sounds not too bad, but the catch is not in the types, but in the emus themselves. Unlike hamster balls, which have their own controls that you have to learn in order to use properly, emu don't have that. They're easy to control and can attack with a melee attack. What's the problem? Well, emu aren't a vehicle here, but a shield, meaning that you can easily just choose a shotgun, run directly into the enemy with emu, and damage him till the emu is dead, and then have a low HP enemy versus a full HP shotgun in close quarters. It's easy to counter with shotgun since just one shot and the emu is dead, but it's not the case for the automatic weapons at all. Trying to kill an emu with auto will just leave you with the same situation as above, and running away is literally no use because emu are just faster. The only actual counter to them is grenades, since they can damage the rider as well. Speaking of grenades, there are 5 types of these: normal, banana, skunk bomb, cat mine, and zip and go. Quick description of them: banana works like a mine, you can place it and it stuns the player for some seconds when touched. Skunk bomb blocks the chosen area, even through walls, and deals a high HP damage quickly in this area, but its effect is temporary. Cat mine works like a, well, mine, but can explode and has a range of activation and can block some areas like skunk bomb, but it also can be defused by a simple super roll. And zip and go is just fast movement from point A to point B, but you can't move through walls. You can chain these together to get a long ride, or just loop them together and enjoy the ride. You may have noticed that I didn't include the normal nade here, and that's because it's a problem child among the other nades. Firstly, it can easily kill you. Secondly, this thing doesn't have a pin, meaning that you can't just fry it by holding in a paw, and instead, the grenade has a short timer, which is incredibly random, because you never know if the grenade will hit the floor and explode in contact, or will it just land on the floor and after a short delay explode. And the result of that is, yeah, not too good. If it doesn't sound too bad yet, then watch this. This thing doesn't have any landing indicators, meaning that the only way to dodge it is to just react to it faster. And even if you will somehow react to it this way, then don't worry, because ghost bullets will screw you over and deal you full damage from it anyway. Well, that's all I forgot to talk about here, so back to the review. Well, we took a look at 2 things that make a good shooter game: replayability and weapon balance. Both were in a rough state, but there's one more thing that contributes to both at the same time: the map and its level design. Okay, who's responsible for the map design here? Robert Silverwood, or Bob for short. Didn't know Michael's brother was helping develop the game. Anyway, the map design is one of the pillars of a good shooter game because it is 100% of your actual gameplay. Bob had an interesting job to do here because in the lore of the game, there's only one island where game is happening in, so there was needed to be done a good work to make a one single map not repetitive. And not gonna lie, Bob smashed it out of the park here. Let's start with the whole idea of adding more maps to the game. You'd think that it's the only way to keep the game not repetitive, but for me, Voxium proved otherwise. It doesn't have many map updates, if any at all, and yet they're still fun to play on just as the first time you played on them. So what's the deal to make them work this way? The level design. Voxium's maps are limited by their amount, but are not limited to what you can do on them. Add to that the nature of the game with building blocks that you can place anywhere you want, and you get a whole new map experience every time you play on these maps. So how did SAR handle the map? Well, the closest thing that is to SAR's map is the Minecraft's chunks. You load up a big open world like map, and it consists of different locations, chunks. Each one of them is a different place completely. One is a Chinese resort, other one is a lab or simply land here if you want to die, third one is a pyramid from Aladdin, and so on. Each location has its own aesthetic to it, which makes them feel different from one another, so in visual variety, this map works great. But there's a second side to map that isn't all that great, and I'm talking about gameplay side of them. You see, Voxium didn't make its maps with visual variety in mind, but rather gameplay variety. One map is an open field where there are no restrictions. The second map has a wall that you need to climb and clean from enemies before using it to attack enemies on the other side of it. Third is the close quarters fights, and the fourth one is a literal hell that works like Bed Wars, where in order to reach the enemy, you have to bridge to the island. Each map has you play by a different strategy and gameplay to actually win on it, which makes Voxium's maps great for replayability in total. SAR on the other hand, sadly doesn't have that much gameplay variety. Sure, it can leave you to a more object spam location where you will need to play a bit differently, but that's about it. Every chunk doesn't feature their own rules for success. You don't learn them but just take them for granted, which makes them terrible gameplay wise. Speaking of object spam locations, this is hell, literally. It's hard to move in such locations, it's even harder to shoot in these locations, and even more harder to see in these locations. And you know what's even worse? The fact that game's gas literally forces you to be in these locations. At least they are a rarity, and most of the time the level design will be more open, but that's on the gameplay effects. On the visual part of the map, God, is this so good. The media's best rule: show, don't tell. And SARS map just has a ton of it if you decide to take a closer look. The lab has papers on the floor. One of the lab's walls has a burn mark under it. The capsules are broken while some still have super animals inside them for some unknown reasons. And such environment lore is all around in the game. When PUBG released, I was so disappointed by the environment design. It was just a box with no personality, no history behind it, which ruined the atmosphere of a battle royale on an abandoned land completely. And where PUBG sucked, SAR doubled down and improved on it, which made SAR's locations make so much more sense and also add a sense of mystery to them, which definitely made the game and even the lore better. Thanks Kenny and Vazin, you did an amazing job there. So, in total, what can I say about the main gameplay of the game? It's underdeveloped. It was this way in early access, it is still right now. It has a lot of potential, but Pixel lacks the experience in making shooter games work, and that's what downgrades SAR's gameplay a lot. Every single decision made, either would that be a new mechanic or weapon balance, it has no consistency or a general idea behind it. Usually, shooters plan out their mechanics ahead and connect the mechanics the game has to a single idea developers strive to see in a game, and SAR's main gameplay more feels like a lot of random stuff connected together in hopes that it would work. And sometimes it does, but sometimes it creates another reason why God left Earth. SAR's main gameplay needs more thoughtful development under it because without consistency, it's just random mess. And as you could have guessed, this was the main gameplay of the game, meaning that all the issues of the main gameplay will also transfer to the other game modes as well. Speaking of other game modes, let's take a look at them. There are about 6 game modes in the game, but we will not talk about all of them. Duos and squads are just a copy of a solo with added co-op and nothing else. And mystery mode is just main gameplay with a new coat of paint so that players wouldn't catch up on it. And yep, they still didn't. So removing all of these game modes, we get 3 game modes including the main battle royale gameplay. Am I supposed to say anything else on this? This game released in 2019, and for 6 years, all we have is 3 game modes that all feature mostly the same gameplay. Well, let's start with Cell vs Rebels, or CVR for short. You know, I could have also skipped this mode as well, since its legacy version was, surprise, who could have guessed, the same battle royale but with teams and flags. But one day, Pixel woke up and said, "Hey fellas, yeah? We're using the same game mode the 4th time already. Maybe it's time we actually make a new game mode?" And with that, Pixel went and remade the whole game mode into Capture the Capture the Flag. The gameplay base is simple. You have 2 teams, 24 super animals per team, one is South, second one is Rebels. You also have 1000 points per team at the start of the match and 3 flags on the map. If at least one flag is captured, the points for both teams start going down by 1 every second. If you capture a flag, the points of your team will be depleting slower and the enemy's points will deplete faster. The team that loses all the points loses, and vice versa. If you paid close attention, you would have easily caught on what's wrong with this game mode. So, what's wrong with it? Flags. They are the only way to get points for your team. That's right, not kills, not helping the team, nothing else but flags. And in order to win, you need to hold the flags. And to do that, you need what? That's right, a good team. A luxury nobody gets in online games with random matchmaking. You may say, but Foxium has a similar game mode too. And yeah, it does. But you know what else does it have? Kills. By killing people, you're literally raising your points meter, meaning that you can easily win without even touching a gem once. Foxium basically gives players full control over the game, making teams not required for all times to actually win. So teams are useless here? Nope. While it is great that you can win without having a good team, it doesn't necessarily mean that a good team is useless. In fact, quite the opposite. A good team can literally destroy the most skilled player in a game. Player has a chance to win a game without the team. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But every loss leaves you wondering what you as a player did wrong that led you to lose the game, making you progress in actually improving onto the game, learning the mechanics and so on. In CVR, you don't have a chance to begin with. All that matters is how good are bots on your team. If they are great, you will win. If not, you will lose. Period. It makes your gameplay feel useless for the game because CVR just plays itself automatically. Well, at least there was one tiny thing that does make this game mode shine like a star. Or at least it was. Meet Twinkle the Mole. It's a mini-boss for CVR that tries its best to make it better. I'll be real with you here, I was skeptical of this guy at first, because it was far too similar to the situation on Pokemon Unite. For those few lucky souls that don't know, at the end of the game, there appears a Zapdos, a mini-boss that if you will defeat, you and your team get maximum points for scoring and fast scoring. So it makes endgame literally decide whether your team wins or not regardless of what happened in the game before its appearance. So does the Twinkle do the same thing? Nope. It's a boss so optional that after hype around it dropped to 0, nobody was fighting him. You'd think that it was a bad thing, but nope. You could have a 1v1 fight with this fella and it was pretty fun. Too bad he has only one attack, but it still made the gameplay feel more player input required, unlike the rest of the game. But Pixel didn't like this. They decided that they would nerf him beyond just fair limits. Firstly, they made some bots specifically target him, which made it far easier to kill him and of course made the battle less fun. But just when you thought that it couldn't get worse, it did. Because Pixel decided that it would be a great idea to reduce HP of Twinkle in 3 times the amount of his previous HP, if there are 15 bots or more on the map, which is the majority of the servers in CVR. It does get back up to 14,000 HP when you get a full lobby of players, but when there are all the players, most of them will go fight the mole, which means that you will never get the true 1v1 experience with this boss ever again. Pixel slaughtered the last string that was holding this game mode together. Wow. So that's CVR for you. A game mode that doesn't require any player's input and is boring down to its core. So let's go over to the Walking Dead now. Walking Dead is a... Give me a second. Yeah? What do you mean I forgot classes? CVR has 5 classes. Scout, Medic, Assault, Sniper, and Heavy. They all have only 2 guns specific to them, Tier 1 guns as I like to call them. And if you kill 5 people or more and after that die, you will get a Tier 2 guns on respawn. And if you die with Tier 2 guns, you revert back to Tier 1 no matter how many kills you did when you had Tier 2. They don't have any unique gameplay to them and are mostly optional. I find it funny how Pixel decided to add a number below the option to choose a class to show how many players are with a specific class, despite the fact that none of it matters in the slightest. Absolute cinema. Anyway, now back to Walking Dead. The gameplay base is simple. 40 players, 4 of them get infected automatically at the start of the match. The goal of survivors is to survive as long as you can and get to the point of evacuation to win. The goal of infected is to not let survivors escape and infect everyone. Infected can only do melee damage and charge up a bomb meter. The more damage you give, the faster the meter will charge. When it will be full, you turn into a bomb that explodes on death. And survivors are just the main gameplay of the game, except now with more teaming. Yay? This game mode is just as slow as Pixel's update rollout ever since the Season 10's release. You get the loot, then you walk around the map doing basically nothing until the map fills up with at least 15 clocks that you'll finally find at least some of them. And it's either you fight back with guns and die from the high amount of clocks you have to kill, or die from ghost bullets. And you know what? This game mode is better than all of the others combined. Why? Well...
Where's the other guy?
He got away.
You mean to tell me the most wanted street racer happened to get away? What about the blacklist?
Forget the blacklist. They're through.
I want every single unit after the guy.
Everyone?
Everyone!
Yes. Yes!
Yes!
By completely ignoring the main gameplay the Pixel are giving by default and just running away from clocks, the gameplay turns into NFS most wanted level of a chase and it's fun. And most of all, it fixes almost all the issues of a main gameplay. Ghost bullets on a normal server with low ping, you will not see them at all. Unfair weapon balancing, gone because clocks can't hold guns. The gameplay becomes more action-filled and dependent on your skill and movement, those things that never played any role in the game at all in the first place. And you wanna know the best part about all this? The setting. You're on an island filled with clocks, the only survivor on the island, fighting for your survival with anything you have in your disposal. Clocks are surrounding you with their amount, but you don't panic. You do what you can best. You run. It's epic and it gives you a reason to fight and survive for. In the main gameplay, you mostly don't care about the fight since it was basically random dependent, but here you have full control on whether you survive or not. And that's why it works where main gameplay doesn't. And the final reward for all your effort, your super animal, the only survivor left, escapes the island while the clocks are jealous they weren't able to take a bite off your face. Simply marvelous. Well, that's all for the game modes here. Quite disappointing that the number of game modes is that low, but oh well. But you know what is good regardless of gameplay? Yep, music. Alrighty, let's see who did the music here. Catbaux? Didn't notice he did a rebrand there. Well, that's nice to know. The playlist for SAR's OST counts up to, I am not joking, 84 tracks. 84 tracks! Like, this is some sick dedication, man. Milestone, you need to take some notes for your soundtrack to feature more than 8 songs next time you make a AAA game. The only track that I have an issue with in SAR is the main theme of the game. The start of the main theme sounds heroic, solemnly. But if you know the lore of the game, there's nothing solemn about it at all. I mean, this is a game about super animals' lives being abused for the sake of getting more money. It's the same issue of PUBG music, where it also sounds solemnly, but there's no reason for it to be this way. At least SAR's main theme doesn't focus on it too much like PUBG does, and immediately switches to a more light and memorable tune. Other than that, soundtrack in this game is solid, and there are some tracks I'd like to point out since, let's be real, I am not talking about 84 of them in one video. Not if you don't want me to actually talk about all of them, that is. For the sake of my sanity, this is a joke. Please don't ask me to actually do it, because I know you will. Default. This is a track that was supposed to be the song for the default dance mode, but in the end, it was just too long, so it was cut to a more loopable and shorter version. But the full version is still a banger. Rebel March. This song is from Rebels and in my opinion just easily shows that super animals are not only pissed from being used as exhibits for humans, they also want to start a genocide run. And I like how it becomes even more filled with animal voices at the end, showing how many rebels there actually are. The next song isn't exactly one, but rather multiple. And I mean here's the remixes of the main theme for the seasons. You may not find it that important, but to me, it reminds me of a different game that was making a remix of the main theme for every new season, Fall Guys. I'm still disappointed that they stopped making new season music and that Jukio quit, so when SAR does the same thing for their seasons, it feels both nostalgic and great. These remixes really give the seasons their own vibe rather than just, oh hey, here's a new battle pass you don't care about anyway. And I love it. And of course, to end it all, Pete's song. Before Pixel ruined the context of the song with the vocal version, this song was solidifying the surfer animals as a whole. A cage made with the goal of getting as much money as possible with no way to quit or leave. And yet, this song sounds like hope. Hope of super animals to one day get the freedoms they truly deserve. Well, songs are great, but there is one problem. Where are they in a game? If you take out a notepad and count all the songs used in the game, you will get 30 tracks in a game out of 84, not including the dances. There is some logic to this, most of the tracks are made for SART, and that's why they are not in the game, but then one tiny question, why are they in a soundtrack for the game if there are no such soundtracks in the game? For the total amount? The world may never know. Anyway, at least most of the good tracks are in the game, but there's a bigger problem. The settings for the sound. Wait, did I forget to talk about the settings in a gameplay chapter? Okay, then we'll talk about it here just to not come back to it again. Settings are terrible in this game. In every other game, settings are a way to, well, set the game to your preference, starting from controls and graphics to tiniest details. So you'd think that settings in SAR are the same way, but no. Instead, they're very limited. Here you have the resolution toggle, a toggle for full screen and VSync, and FPS limiter. You also have shadow quality, but in my experience, it did almost zero change. While you could say that a 2D game doesn't need that much settings for optimization of graphics, I say otherwise. There are a ton of objects in the game, including moving objects that are just decor in the game, and there can be added an option to turn these off for people who don't need it but need more FPS on low-end PCs. And that's just a single option for a more better optimization. There's far more than that. It also has toggles to lock the mouse in the window, which I never use, toggle for removing chat, and 2 sliders for music and effects. By the way, background noise is also considered an effect and not music, meaning that you won't be able to turn it off. These sliders are horrible because there is no precise control. Some music can be turned off by a slider of music, but some will still play because they count as effects. So the only way to turn them off is by muting the game entirely. There could have been done more, but instead, we have what we have. Yeah, music in this game was pretty amazing, however, I can't say the same completely for the next chapter. Let's start with monetization. The game has 2 in-game currencies, Carl Coins and SAW tickets. Carl Coins can be earned through playing the game, playing the events, or earning them in a battle pass. You can spend them in a Carl's cackling card and get a ton of items. Seems innocent enough. SAW tickets can be earned through battle pass. 50 tickets per battle pass for free, by the way. That's it. If you want to get more, you have to buy it. But at least you can still get them for free in a battle pass. How much does it cost? 550 tickets. By making a quick math, you will need to load 11 seasons to get the latest season. If you want to get the previous season, feel free to load another 4 seasons. Let me remind you, that's 15 seasons in total, and we're not even on our 15th one yet. This is too much grinding and waiting just for the battle pass you want. But it's so easy for people who donate in the game since battle passes include the SAW tickets in them. In total, they refund you 250 tickets. And while it does sound nice to buy a battle pass and get tickets back, what's not nice is that in order to actually get this refund, you'll need to pay the full price instead, which is easy for a player who donates into the game, but hard for a player that doesn't. This is a money-making scheme on the level of Tencent here, and I don't like it. It does make sense, the Pixel need more money, but making free-to-play player grind for the battle passes for all eternity doesn't sound good either. But okay, let's say you decided to buy the tickets just for the battle pass. Let's take a look, and the minimal amount of tickets you can buy is twice as much as the latest battle pass. Seriously? Like seriously? The monetization of this game is so questionable to the point where I'm actually starting to see the parallels. But at least the community isn't that bad, right? Well, it depends. There are two sides of a SAR community. One side is a cute and friendly part that mostly doesn't mention the game itself that much, but is still great to talk to regardless. And the second side of the community is gameplay side. Let's be real here. I didn't expect much from this side because the game itself is unfair to say the least. In fact, looking at the SAR's gameplay alone, I wouldn't be surprised if the part of this community was toxic, and as you could have guessed, I was right about it. I'm not a fox that monitors SAR's Discord server all the time to see how bad it actually gets, so I didn't see the side too much myself.
Whatever game you're playing, it won't work. You can't defeat me.
Well, I know. But they can.
No!
If you take a look at the negative reviews for the game on Steam, you can find a lot of people reporting toxicity in the game, but one player even reported toxicity outside of the game, in the official Discord server for the game. Meet Extra. He also did a review for this game before, which I randomly found while making this video, so here's what he has to say about SAR's toxicity issues. The thing is, at the glance, this community is probably fine for the most part, but there are just a lot of people who are really bad to the health of things. They're invalidating, discrediting, not really open to different opinions, deny the opinions of others, unwilling to learn or change their opinion really, and it creates an environment where people like me and people I talk to are pretty unhappy with how they are treated on a daily basis by some people. People constantly feel treated unfairly and not like they can say something because anyone will just disregard things like it's an opinion or it's a you problem, and these people don't even see how bad it feels to just get disregarded like that. Numerous people have been treated badly on there, and it just sucks to see how this happens again and again by the same people, and when I try to advocate for these people or fight against the people that treat others badly, I got punished a few times where Logan wants to ban me because I make things uncivil, completely ignoring the treatment some people get there. And trust me, that's not the only moment where SAR's community toxicity is at its peak. Instead of increasing the duration of the review with a lot of examples, I'll just leave them in the description of the video if you're not convinced by everything mentioned above. And while it does seem like a problem with the community, I personally don't think so, because in reality, it's the problem with SAR's moderation. And unlike with toxicity examples, with SAR's moderation, I had a lot of experience, and definitely have a lot to say here. Firstly, I will say that SAR has a lot of moderators, but I did have the most problems with just one, Logan. But before we'll dive into the problems I had with moderation, there's one more thing that we'll have to touch on first, the rules. When you first launch the game, you get a short list of rules that includes no teaming, being positive and supportive, no spamming, racism, politics, advertising, or other toxic behavior. Yeah, when I said it's short, I wasn't joking. And if you think that it's just a short version of the rules and a full list can be found, then nope, that's all the rules the game offers. You would think that the SAR's media does have a full list of rules somewhere, and it does, or at least the Discord server of SAR does. But it's a list of rules for the Discord server, where most of the rules are taken straight from Discord's official guidelines for the servers, so they mostly apply only to the Discord server of SAR. What about other media? Well, they barely have any rules. For example, Reddit page only has 3 rules: be kind, no spamming, and no NSFW content. There is no full global rules list, and the rules can just update randomly without you even knowing them, meaning that mostly you may not even know what's fine to say and what's not. And most of all, there are barely any reason for the rules being in the rules. It sounds not that bad, but in my opinion, it's terrible. Because rules aren't just the specific lines of text that allow moderators to ban people. No, they're there to protect players, to make the experience of the community way better, and without the reasons for the rules being there in the rules list, they're just that, lines that allow moderators to ban people. Here's an example of a good rules list. It has a short version for those who don't want to read the entire page, but for those who need it, there is a full version of the rules list with not just all the reviews written in an understandable for user format, but also has reasons for these rules to exist in the first place. SARS rules, on the other hand, are a random mess where in order to get at least a full understanding of all the rules, you need to run through a lot of SARS media rules and connect the dots yourself. And you wanna know the worst part about it? Moderators sometimes can literally ignore it. Yep, the SARS rules are so unorganized that even the moderation team has issues getting it together. And a result of all this, we get this. Enjoy. Hi Roro. Discussing or alluding to anything that breaks the in-game EULA is strictly prohibited and will lead to removal from all official platforms. Note from the moderators: do not encourage in-game rule breaking in any capacity. Future offenses will result in longer timeouts or removal from the subreddit. Okay, here's the context for this. One player asked for any tips on pacifist ROM for the game, on which I gave him an advice to get a friend to play on the same server, make him wipe out everyone without teaming with a pacifist player, and then either grenade themselves or run into the gas. While it does sound like teaming, in reality, it's not. One of SAR's moderators said this: avoiding isn't teaming. And without any interaction with a pacifist, it is just not teaming in any way. Yet Logan insists on teaming being bannable in any capacity. By the way, it is a common saying in SAR for some players to just help out a pacifist player in a match by killing everyone and then just giving the victory this way. Quite surprised that Logan doesn't know about it. And that's just me. There are even more people that had problems with the moderation being random at times. So you know me saying that SAR's moderation is terrible, and that's far from the truth. Because I myself have seen far worse. Anyway, sure, SAR's moderation is flawed and mostly more confusing than helpful, but me personally, I don't think it's that bad. While me and Logan do have some issues in discussions, I still think that Logan isn't a bad moderator but rather a complicated one to find good terms with. And in my opinion, it's fine because everyone is at some point. Same for the SARS community and its moderation. It has its own flaws, but Pixel are actively trying to make it better. There is work to be done, but even at this stage, SARS community isn't terrible. From my experience, I found a lot of friends through this game and had an amazing time with all of them. But sadly, the same can't be said for everyone. While working under this review, the more and more people started quitting SAR completely, starting from players who played it for a long time, ending with new players who just found the game for tryhards and left. And it's no secret that SAR's moderation and toxicity has helped it to happen a lot. One of many examples is Shadethrone10, where he was literally bullied by SAR's community for his accusations. And while some of it can be justified because of his attitude towards teammates and just viewers in general, I still think that SAR community went too far here. Even SAR moderation completely dropped his reports, saying that they have better stuff to do. And the final punchline to all this is a literal AI-generated response from Katie, a new SAR mod in the team. Iska, the content creator who was making amazing videos talking about features of SAR, was of course removed from content creator program because of rude talk about SAR in third-party Discord servers that wasn't even related to SAR. What the f is all this? And while on paper it sounds valid, in reality, moderators are literally just silencing community if they see something wrong said towards them, even if it's just a joke, completely ignoring other cases where it might be just true. These are only the ones I recently found while searching reviews to prove my point, but it sadly doesn't even stop there. There's far more examples of moderation literally killing content creators seen here and acting absolutely horrible. And sadly, I can't say that SAR community is great at this point. Don't get me wrong, there are a lot of good people to meet, but so much neglect and ignorance was given to once peaceful and nice community to the point where it isn't safe from toxic people and is very far from what it was once a long time ago. Super Animal Royale for me is a game that is a definition of a mixed bag. From one side, you have a great community, amazing visuals, interesting lore, great music, and unique gameplay. And yet on the other side, you have yet another battle royale with terrible replayability, bad gameplay core, very boring game modes, horrible weapon balance, repetitive fights, bad moderation, and almost no attempts to stand out from the saturated market of battle royales. SAR didn't really change for the total of about 6 years this game existed. It is mostly the same game it was 5 to 6 years ago, and instead of fixing this issue, Pixel doubled down on more optional parts of the game that aren't fixing things at all or sometimes make things even worse. I've seen a bad thing for SAR come out over and over and over to the point where I started to lose hope for Pixel actually fixing SAR, just like many other content creators. This game is dying. As much as I didn't want to admit it myself because of how bright Pixel were saying about a big player base, it is true and it's going to get much worse. The game right now struggles to not just hit 1k players, but even half of that number alone. And something tells me that when SAO expansion hits, it won't really change a thing about SAR's situation at all. It'll still be the same game, full of its problems that just raise more toxicity and push away new players, leaving only old players to deal with it, until even they get tired and leave. It's easy to put the blame on Pixel because they are the ones who led SAR to this point, but even if it seems like it, it's not. Pixel are beginners in indie games. They don't know how to make a gripping gameplay or a great weapon balance. So it's natural that Pixel just made what was fun for them, never even understanding that SAR has a lot of issues already. And what's worse is that even if people tried to speak up about SAR's issues, they were either ignored or easily forgotten. So, when watching this review, you may think that I made this review to trash on a game and push away even more players from it, but in reality, it's not true. Like Ego once said, the work of a critic is easy. We thrive on negative criticism, which is interesting to write and fun to read, but the bitter truth about it is that the average piece of junk is more meaningful than the criticism in its direction, and I don't want this review to be the same. Despite the fact that SAR isn't that fair at times, I still care about it, as well as Pixel do. They see the problems with the game and want to fix them. For example, the new netcode. Would Pixel try to make a new netcode for the game if players didn't criticize game's bad hit registration? Even if it didn't turn out that great, the attempt was always there. Or gameplay. Would Pixel want to fix the main gameplay and other game modes if players didn't mention that the game modes in their current state are boring and weak? Even if you take a look at the patches for SAR, under many you can find Michael, the lead of Pixel, actively talking with the community. For them, SAR isn't a game that's made to make money for 1 or 2 years and shut down. And as a player who saw great games burn to dust right before his eyes, I don't want SAR to be the next game in this way, and here's what I, and I hope SAR's community will do about it. I want this review to guide Pixel into the right direction for the game before SAR will get into the point of no return, and you, dear viewer, can help me with that. Spread this review around so that Pixel would have noticed it. Just don't spam it because that'll make moderators' job harder, which I obviously don't want. One thing I learned from online games is that they can change over time and you just need to give them a chance to change. SAR may not be the perfect battle royale right now, but the future isn't written yet. Maybe in the future the game will be fixed and players will come back, or maybe not. But whatever happens to SAR at the end, I'll always give it another chance to change. The real question is, will you give it a chance to change? Thanks for watching this very long review. This video is sort of a big experiment for this channel since, as you may notice, it's the first time I not only do such reviews but talk about something in a duration of about 2 hours. This video was made with my last remains of my hope for Pixel because I still believe that they can fix SAR, but will they or not? Time will tell. I have no idea how such reviews will even perform looking at how YouTube loves to flatline my videos and push into recommendation more slop. So if you do like this idea and want more such reviews from me, you can always show it by leaving a comment or a like under this video. I have some more ideas for new reviews in mind, so if this video succeeds in its goal of attracting more attention to SAR's problems and finally fixing them for good, then I'll follow up with more reviews, some even outside of SAR's theme, but that's all for you to decide. As always, that's all from me for now. Have a nice day, Foxkeepers!